Now, welcome to another Let's Talk Some Bad Batch, where this time it's episode 4 of season 2, Faster, that we will be discussing, mainly by looking at some of the comments left on my review over on the other channel. But before we get to any of that, it's time for Naboo's rapid review.
I am something of a reviewer myself.
So give us your quick take of the episode.
The main plot line with Tech was very predictable at times. Very, very predictable. What was more interesting to me was the subplot with Sid. So I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
It wasn't as good in general to me as last week's episode, but still not bad.
All right. Fair enough. Let's get to the comments then, starting with the top-rated one.
All right, from Caleb. Even though this was a filler episode with the most predictable plot I've ever seen, I still kind of liked it. It did a lot for Tech. It really made him seem competent and capable on his own in ways that none of the other episodes so far have. I really liked that he was able to apply his smarts to win at something completely non-intelligence related.
Everybody thought this was predictable. You mean nobody thought that there was a chance that
Tech would die?
Tech would die or lose?
Or lose? No, I don't think anyone thought that.
Oh.
No, we cannot be so easily fooled.
No, I would say that is... I mean, there's never much tension in kind of these mid-season episodes where you know it's a tried and true formula.
Yeah, I liked that this whole episode had a gaming theme. You opened up with Wrecker and Omega playing a game. And
Playing Dejarik, yeah.
Playing Dejarik, yeah. And then we moved into Tech got to play a game, too.
Tech did get to play a game. His game had more stakes, though, again,
Though you wouldn't know it by looking at him.
No. But I did like the fact that this was Tech's time to shine. That's what I kind of dubbed my other video.
To show that he is capable of more than just, I'm a sort of droid of the group.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I talked about in the other video, how he is very droid-like. He's very analytical, very numbers-driven. And here you had the flamboyant droid Teo kind of contrasting against that. I thought it was pretty interesting, actually, that the droid seemed more human than Tech did. The droid was the one talking about, hey, I got all the skill. I'm going to win the race. You don't need to figure out the course. You just go out there and you do your thing and you win. And it's, it's the human, it's Tech, who's like, no, actually, you need to take the left course and you do the, very cool.
Very cool.
Even though, it was a little predictable.
Moving on to the next comment from Kelatar. The Sid setup. In the end, we all choose sides. Rafa Martez. The race. One shouldn't forget Tech does have quite impressive piloting skills, as we saw on several occasions in Season 1. He worked out the numbers he needed for the race, but he's pretty mean with a set of steering controls as well.
Yeah, it wasn't entirely just that he plugged in some numbers and just carried it out. He does know how to pilot, certainly.
Clearly he knows how to pilot.
Yeah.
I like that he, threw off the weapons in favor of speed because he knew speed is the main component to winning the race.
Yeah.
That he used his intelligence and his observations even from the first race to influence how to win the second. He was always paying attention even when it doesn't look like he's paying attention.
Yeah, if you watch the first race, he's actually just, crunching numbers on the data pad. He's not really even paying attention, when Teo races the first time.
Right.
He's just on his pad like, oh, yeah. And then at one point he's like, I can't predict who's going to win because everybody's so unpredictable. He just figured he'd be able to kind of watch and it would become clear and he'd pick the winner, but he couldn't because they were just doing their thing.
But there was even plenty of foreshadowing when he said to Teo, why are you not using your shields more? And he's like, haha, good offense. Best offense is a good defense.
It's a really good Teo impression there.
Yeah. When he's just talking about how the guns are a much better option.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. If you're in first place, what are your guns for?
Well, if you can turn him around and shoot him. Well, you can throw banana peels. I mean.
I know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get
Having weapons is great, but the speed and shields, that speed can make all the difference. It's not going to, you can't aim as well when something is moving faster, when he has higher maneuverability, as you said.
Yeah.
And the next comment comes from Sadistic Overlord. About damn time they give the spotlight to this great character. My sentiments exactly.
Yeah, it was time for a Tech episode.
Just like the first pairing of the season, we got a lot more Echo. It's about time we got more Tech.
It does feel like they listened, right? That was kind of the big complaint, or one of the big complaints I would say in Season 1 is Tech and Echo were nowhere to be seen other than every now and then in the background doing. They were kind of interchangeable, really. It felt like they were the same character at times.
I find it interesting that I'm assuming that Tech didn't go on the mission that Wrecker and Hunter went on, maybe because he's still on the mend from his injury.
Could be.
They didn't
Kinda
mention
forgot
his injury at all, but
yeah, now you
he did
ruined
hurt
the
his
whole
leg
episode for me. I
pretty
forgot
bad.
that he like broke his leg.
Well, that
It's
could
Star
be why
Wars.
he didn't go on the "I'm going to deliver stuff" mission, but he's like, well, I guess I can go on the standing there mission because I have to.
It's Star
he
Wars.
might have just been
you
on
rub
the
a
mat.
little Bacta on it, you're fine. Get him back in there. You can go racing the day after you break your leg.
Well, racing's probably fine. All of their controls seem to be handled up at the steering console.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, I'm sure he went in the back to tank or something.
They did something for him,
Yeah.
of course, and maybe it wasn't as serious as...
I don't know. You said he broke his femur, I think. That's
Yeah.
pretty serious.
But they do have fast ways of healing in Star Wars.
Yeah. Plus, they're clones. They probably have rapid healing powers.
No.
Like Wolverine or something.
I just would have liked if they would have made mention that he didn't go on that mission because of the fact that maybe he needed to
Just a
relax
little bit
his
of
leg.
R&R time, and then he
Yeah.
decides to go racing. Sure. It would have made sense.
Would have made sense. Like, he needed to heal when they left, but now he's doing much better.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how much time has passed. Next from Andre Nitro, times 1,000. This episode was truly captivating. It reminded me of the pod race scene, but it had its own flair.
Yeah, I like the little pod racing. Again, predictable. We also knew Anakin was going to win in episode 1, right? We always talk about how things are predictable in a show like this, but it's not like some of the movies you've watched are like predictable as well.
I mean, we assumed Tech would win, but there was a small chance that he wouldn't, and then maybe they'd have to do a rescue mission to save Sid later
It's
down the
possible,
line.
yeah.
But at the same time, I wanted Tech to win because he needed this. He needed this boost in the show. Everyone would remind you of how amazing Tech can be.
Well, we do see in that first 2 episodes, he was kind of hiding behind the tree, and the other clone comes up to him and he just handles his business, right? He puts him down.
He can. He's trained just as much as the others are for the physical combat and all that. He just leans towards intellectual things because that is where his strength is. Hey, even 99 could probably handle his business.
Well, probably good, actually. Probably beat me up, but...
Alright, from Neo's Danger. This episode was awful, but no matter how awful it gets, fans will go through mental gymnastics to like it because it has 2 things. Prequels, Dave Filoni. Just slap those 2 on dog poop and people will like it no matter what.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of people griping about this episode. I was generally
because
positive.
It falls into the categorization of filler, even though there is character development on both Sid and Tech's part.
It is setup.
It's setup.
And it gives you a character who has not really had an episode to really just shine and show you his skill set. We get the whole, his whole resume was on display here. He's a capable pilot. He's brilliant. He kind of misses the obvious. That is his biggest flaw. He misses he'll be the one who's like, well, there's a 3.7% chance the ship will explode. And, he'll say it casually and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Why didn't you tell us that first, Tech? He misses those kind of things. So it kind of puts his whole, again, resume on display. We really get to see who this character is. We have the whole Sid setup. Was it predictable? Did we know he was going to win? Yeah.
What's interesting is part of the crowning achievement of this episode won't be shown if this doesn't connect to something. If they just throw out the rest of this shady Sid
but
nonsense,
there's no way they're not.
Maybe a little boost of confidence in Tech and maybe a little more personality out of it, seeing how other people appreciated his intelligence. Because the Bad Batch doesn't always show how they appreciate his intelligence.
No, they don't,
and his hard
actually.
work. So if this episode does not pay off, yeah, then I would call this a bad episode. But it's too early in the season to tell.
There's virtually no way this doesn't pay off, especially with the Sid stuff. The Tech stuff is what it is. I don't think this is like alluding to Tech winning a pod race in a future episode or anything like that. He's used his smarts before to, use the data to get out of a situation or to save the day kind of thing. So this was really it was a Tech episode to, again, remind you who Tech is, showcase what he's all about, but it was also a strong hint that Sid is going to be either betraying them or have the choice to betray them down the road. It's a setup episode. Yes, you can call it filler, but these will have, there will be payoff down the road.
Right, and if there's not, it's going to...
But then it's crap.
It's going to be frowned on as a horrible episode, because if you don't do anything with the setup that you gave us, it's worthless.
No, it's not crap. It's a fun episode. I don't love it. It's not like I was like on the edge of my seat, because you knew who was going to win. But it was fun. It was a fine episode. I don't, I don't need every week to be like profound, like, oh my God, that was so deep or so moving. Not everything needs to be, to go back to it, not everything needs to be Andor. Not even Andor had every episode be like profound and gripping and moving either. Some of them were setup.
Well, and when we rewatched the Bad Batch Season 1, the first episode in which they meet Sid, they don't trust Sid. Sid doesn't trust them, but Sid looks much better off.
Yes, it looks like she's been
She's
going
very
down.
confident.
Yeah.
She's still, even though the Empire is squeezing, she's still got that cavalier boss lady attitude, and she loses some of that in this episode because you can tell that things aren't going well for Sid.
Well, we learned in that first episode with Sid that she kind of had contacts. The Jedi would come to her for information. That's how they find her. Echo had heard about her. Mm-hmm. So she probably had a pretty good thing with the Jedi, and now the Empire, not so much.
And let's not forget, she threatened Hunter at the end of that episode.
Well, she did, yeah.
She pretty much told him, hey, work for me and do jobs because, secrets don't always stay secrets.
Yeah, exactly.
Meaning at that point in time, she was already willing to sell them out if the price was right, probably to keep her enterprise going.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that was the 5th episode, I believe, in Season 1, the Rancor episode, which, again, feels a whole lot like filler. And yet, here we are.
That's what these filler episodes turn into.
Yeah, and yet here we are, Season 2, and that is now relevant. Which isn't a defense to say the show is like, oh, it's this masterpiece that it's so deep and complex that you gotta find all the pieces. No, I'm just saying sometimes, yes, there are subtle clues in an episode that feels like kind of generic filler that will come back to play later.
Moving on to the next comment, Ariel Rose. It's a kid show, but a fun one.
Except for the guy who's in the audience who got shot randomly. Such a strange moment. It's like this fun, lighthearted-ish episode.
Why don't they have shields up for the race, the audience? Why is it like, I could... It's not like you go to SeaWorld and you're like, I'm sitting in these seats, which are designated as the splash zone, where I may get splashed.
Acid. There's the whales, acid whales are splashing acid on the
No, it's
crowd.
not the same thing. You go to riot racing, is this like there's a section that's like, by the way, you could get shot by a blaster.
I'm out. I'm not. That's not even. I mean, it would be like going to like a NASCAR race and there being like no netting or anything, or going to a baseball game and they're like, nah, foul ball. You gotta watch the whole time.
You gotta be ready because you could be taking a ball to the face.
Especially if you're behind behind home plate. Whew.
Yeah, it's bizarre that there's no safety regulations. I mean, maybe under the Republic there would have been, but maybe under the Empire things get a little loosey goosey.
They do, but no, it is. I think this is primarily a show for kids that adults can certainly enjoy as well.
I'm sure the kids would have found humor in the fact that, that guy...
I think it actually was meant to be funny, but when you really think about it, like, that guy had a family.
Yeah, he did die
He got shot right in the chest, too. Like, he didn't... There's no back to rubbing on that one. He's gone. He's done.
No refund on ticket.
No.
They even said that their Riot Racing is not responsible for...
I did like the little kind of announcer, a little throwback. A lot of throwback to episode 1 here. Mm-hmm. Again, this was fun, and it's fine. It was a fine episode.
Next comment is from Pewee Pewix. I think when the crowd is cheering to him, there's a mix between confusion and satisfaction. Confused about why they're surprised, but at the same time having some satisfaction for getting a lot of attention. I wonder if he'll leave the team at some point to become a celebrity or something.
Yeah, I think that was a great moment when he kind of does a little wave to the crowd, and at first Wrecker and Omega come out like, you did it, you won, and he's like, well, why are you so surprised? And it's not,
of course I won.
Yeah, it's like he knew he was going to, and he had already figured it out. I mean, yes, there were probably variables that he couldn't account for that could have led to him losing, don't get me wrong, but he was confident. He knew he was going to win. He had it all figured out, and he carried out his plan. So he's surprised that they didn't understand, like, my plan is going to work, and then he's watching the crowd cheer his name, and he's like, how did they not know I was going to win? But at the same time, it's like, this is pretty cool, right?
I'd love to see how Teo would handle the ship without the weapons, without that extra weight and the additional maneuverability.
Are you saying Teo would have won?
Well, think about it. Teo was in second place in the race he was in earlier when he got jumped by those two guys, when he got pincer maneuvered.
Yeah.
He was in second place, and he probably could have actually won that, but he still had the heavy machinery on the ship. Yeah. What would Teo do with that light ship with the maneuverability?
Well, he refused to get rid of the weapons or put the power into the shield, so...
Well, he works for you. It's your ship. You take the things off and you say, win the race.
Well, he didn't listen to Sid during the race, but I get your point. He may have won.
I'm just curious how that would have gone.
Yeah.
Next from Nicholas Christensen. It was an entertaining episode. Love the racing. It's fun to see this Galaxy sports events. Liked the big guy. We might see him again. This was a great character. Never liked the one in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see the pod racing and other things in the gal. What do you do with your free time?
I'm just sad it wasn't swoop bike racing.
Well, that's nice, the Old Republic style.
Swoop.
But no, it's cool to get. It's kind of world building to see again. What do people do with their free time and what kind of sports do they have and so on.
The one in Force Awakens just didn't do much.
Oh, we're talking. Yeah,
just there.
He just kind of big dude sitting in a chair. big chair
Yeah.
too.
This was much better to see them actually move, and he was more eloquent. He wasn't just a thug.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I like
I
that
don't
at
like the trope that, look, I have a big, burly-looking character. He must be a thug.
Yeah, and not the brightest thug either.
Not the
Usually the
brightest
bigger
thug.
somebody is, the dumber they are.
Well, even in the Force Awakens, what was her name? Biznettel? She was the girl who was hanging out with him, was literally just using him as a shield because he was a thug. He's sitting by the door and no one will mess with you if you look like the side piece of the thug, and she was scoping things out.
Look at you. Yeah, she's the one who betrays. I can't remember her name.
She has her whole a little.
She did have a story. I read it, and I don't even remember what her name was because.
I'm pretty sure it's something like what I said.
Yeah, someone's gonna correct you in the comments. Don't
That's
worry
fine.
about that.
That's fine. Go for it. I'm trying to offer.
Yeah,
it,
I don't.
That's an obscure Force Awakens character that I shouldn't have remembered even part of the name of.
Yeah.
Let alone what she's actually doing in that scene.
Yeah.
Just
well,
laying on some guy who's like a big thug, pretending to be his woman so that she can sit near the door and scope everyone out without drawing attention to herself, really. Because he is the threat, not her.
Yeah.
Even though she's actually probably the bigger threat because of her crazy arsenal of weapons.
Yeah, doesn't she have like poisonous lipstick or something too?
Oh yeah, she is deadly.
Yeah, I read that story as well. I just don't remember. I'm terrible with names.
All right, next from Question Man. They seem to be making Sid the new Lando as a subplot. The only criticism I have for the episode was it's trying to establish any real stakes when clearly no one is in any danger, or even could be. On the flip side, there was character growth in the newfound respect both Wrecker and Omega have developed for Tech, and we got to see what he's really capable of and doesn't care who knows it or doesn't.
Yeah, I think that sums up the episode well. No stakes, character development, and setup for Sid.
It's funny because if you were in that situation, you would feel like there were stakes, but as a bystander of the show, we're like, nah, too early.
Yeah,
When the Bad Batch is going down, they're going down to the Empire, probably in front of Crosshair or because of Crosshair.
Yeah, I'm sure Wrecker and Omega were sitting, watching the race on the edge of their seat, as was Sid, no doubt. If Tech loses, and she has no idea that Tech is gonna, she doesn't understand Tech's ability to plot the whole thing out analytically. So she's on the edge of her seat. Everybody else is on the edge of their seat except for you at home.
Yeah.
You're like, yep, Tech's gonna win.
Besides, it'd be really weird coming across Crosshair next and him being like, hey, what happened to Tech? He's not with you. And be like, oh yeah, he died. No. Any death of the Bad Batch is gonna be in the presence of Crosshair.
Yeah, and probably the result of something Crosshair does.
Possibly. I've had theories on this.
Do you think Crosshair kills a member of the Bad Batch?
I think somebody else in the Empire is told to do it, and they do it instead of him. Like the situation he and Cody was in, I think it's the reverse.
Ooh.
Where they tell him, hey, shoot this member of the Bad Batch, and he can't do it, and somebody else does it.
Interesting.
Or something like that. I think a death of a Bad Batch member will be what redeems Crosshair.
Redeems is a strong word.
Well, it brings him back.
Yeah.
What causes him to go AWOL. I honestly am going to be really disappointed with this series in general if every member of the Bad Batch survives. I know that sounds horrible, but there needs to be real stakes.
There needs to be something completely unpredictable that happens, I think, in the show. Like, I made the comment that I think it would be more interesting if Sid ends up betraying them, and that's kind of what makes them kind of push them towards the rebellion more, that they realize we can't trust these random people. Maybe we can put our faith in something else. And, there were people in the comments like, there's just no way that Sid's going to do that. It's too predictable. It's not in the DNA of the show. And I really think the show needs to do something that everybody's like, wow, I didn't think they would, do that. And Crosshair, as you suggested, I don't know that that's going to happen, but Crosshair, having the chance to kill one of them and doesn't, and someone else pulls the trigger, that's certainly unpredictable.
Or if they don't pull the trigger, he turns around and he kills them.
He kills them. Yeah, that's more likely, I think.
But I still think...
Sadly, that's more predictable. No!
No, but every clone surviving is actually the worst thing they could do because they're taking away stakes.
Yes.
Even if it's a kid's show, there needs to be consequences to actions and stakes.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's intriguing for them, too.
Yeah, I think kids... when we say kids, I don't think like, they're 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds. We're talking, preteen, teen kind of kids watching this. And, a couple... Like with Clone Wars. Clone Wars started out more... innocent, I guess you could say.
It'll be either Tech or Echo because they fill the same role on the team.
But I mean, Clone Wars kind of matured with its audience, I think. The later seasons are very mature, but you're kind of hoping maybe those kids who were 11, 12 when they started watching it are now teenagers, and they're going to want a little something more on the edge.
Right.
Yeah, that's totally what kids say these days, right? On the edge.
On to the last comment from Bowen Horn. I actually really enjoyed this episode. Was it full of predictable tropes? Absolutely. But it used all of its tropes well. It was a fun time while setting up some future conflicts.
Completely agree.
I agree as well. They set up Sid very well in this episode. She looked nervous throughout like the entire episode. Nervous, shifty, poor. I'm gonna guess poor.
I think she's
I
very
think that's
poor.
why she wanted them to go after the war chest. Why she kept hinting to him, Hunter, hey, it'll help you make Omega's life good, and
mine.
she's talking to the other, kind of convincing the other clones. Oh,
Yeah.
I need the money, and then they're like, yeah, let's get money. You don't think she was getting a cut of that when they came back? She told them about the war chest.
Oh, she's definitely getting a cut of this.
She gets a cut, and she needed a cut, and so she convinced them to go after something extremely dangerous.
Yeah, because she's in financial straits, hardships.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's all we got for this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below. Tell us what you thought of this episode, the 4th episode of The Bad Batch. Was it just utter filler, or did you see the setup and enjoy it for what it was? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.